Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, depending on where you are globally. I'm excited to present the RosettaNet Singapore and Global CIO ventures here together, the key partnership which we're doing together. Before I start that, I would like to speak a little bit about the journey of RosettaNet Singapore GS1, why this organization has been in place, and why these consortiums are so important. Uh, because it's important that the government, the industry and the education institutions come together always to solve the industry problems and challenges which we constantly go through, right? And each of the party looks for or someone else, like the government looks for the industry looks for government, and all of us look for talent in education institutions. And that's why I think this kind of consortiums come to play. And we've been here for about 20 years solving industry problems, creating B2B standards, more than 1 trillion of dollars of revenue is being generated using the standards as we speak, and the likes of barcode, RFID, all has come from this organization. Now, what we're trying to do is we are trying to partner with the organizations like Global CIO Forum, which has got a huge network. And we have MOUs with Global CIO Forum and Edifice in Europe, for example, and GS1 in US. How do we leverage the network to go from a region or a country to a cross-border region or a global kind of a standards organization, right? So that's why I think the partnership between Global CIO Forum and RosettaNet Singapore plays a key part. And we have done some interesting projects like research through pandemic, and which are going to leverage and come out with a lot of outcomes, which I'll share in a minute. Likewise, on the standard side, we are still working with the governments on some digital standards like blockchain for with the Singapore government, like for trade. Trust is the industry project we are working towards, where the blockchains can be internationally recognized as the innovations happen in silos within their own organizations, to name a few, right? We partner with organizations like Global CIO Forum to have the roundtables, events where we can focus on standards and we can leverage on the network and the media coverage and the outreach to C-suite between the organizations, these two organizations, right? And we also partner with the education institutions where we kind of have the talent and the what do you call upcoming talent and to address the talent gaps of certifications maybe, or some pilot programs run with a kind of center of excellence to be set up as a pilot project and give it back to the industry. So a lot of those things happened in the last 20 years, and we are moving towards edge in Industry 4.0 technology as we speak. And I'm excited to share with you a major and a good project which we started last year, again in collaboration with Global CIO Forum, to say how do we capture the moment in time for pandemic where it is a new normal, where the whole industry and the global forum has been a reset, rethink, and a restart for all of us, right? So we wanted to capture what happens to the business side of things, what happens to your partners, what happens to the new normal, which we are going to move about. That we had a 360 degrees approach, and a lot of good findings have come out from this research, which I'm going to leverage to speak about how the regional business and digital trends looks like, right? And let's see some of those study outcomes. The participation from the industries has been across. We again took a 360 approach here, starting from high tech and manufacturing, SMEs, energy sectors, financial services. You can see the sweep. It was overwhelming, and we had about 450 to 500 participants from this survey, which we have captured the data. And we like to see how it looks like in various sectors of the outcomes, right? So let me share a little bit of the different aspects of the research, right? So we went about asking how this pandemic is turning about, right? And do you see the investments in technology happening just for a spur for the pandemic situation, or it's going to stop after that, right? The response was overwhelming, saying that the organizations doesn't see technology as a backbencher or a back office. They're seeing them in the front line. Same goes for HR, for that matter, right? It's no longer a support function, and they're in the front lines, right? So investments are continuing to happen, and I'm seeing this, the research data, and when you go to the real industries forums, and when you talk to people or the C-suites, we're seeing this in every organization. I'm sure all of you must be going through this, that investments are increasing in technology space, and this is going to continue, right? We further went on the major disruptors. We can always speak about very generic things like reset, rethink, and restart, but what are the key areas which really it got hit through this pandemic? When we did a deep dive, we all knew that pandemic has created a very different situation for all of us, especially not everybody has kind of hit the bottom and come up like a V shape or a U shape, you can call it. It's like a K shape kind of recovery. We're all seeing that, but we are all global companies as you speak. We are not doing business in one place or one region, and that's why the regional trends in business become very important. And each one is coming up in its own pace. How the government is reacting on the vaccine policies, for that matter. How is the variants of the pandemic turning about, right, and all that. So that's impacting when you see that's impacting the real supply chain. The demand forecast being the key on top. If you see, that's the major thing, because people don't know how to plan. They cannot go in a weekly way. They can't go in a daily basis. And how to go about getting your capacity right with your suppliers, with the contractors. How do you make sure your partners are ready for the change, and how do you make the change happen and execute to really run your business to be profitable, or at least sustain, for that matter, right? And that's been a huge challenge. And beyond technology, the trust you build with your suppliers and the partners are key here, because these are the moments where I think everybody has got a level play, and you need to build a trust to say that in the good times and the bad times we are with you. And it could not only be in manufacturing, it could be financing, it could be credit. How you go about helping the ecosystem, right? That also I'm seeing as a trend there. And there's a huge shortage in inventories. We all hear about the semiconductors, chip industry shortages, and people have stopped manufacturing, and new plants are being held up, and new acquisitions, M&A news we are hearing globally. All these are the trends and effect on top of the pandemic we are seeing, and each organization is struggling. And we from RosettaNet Singapore and Global CIO Forum are seeing how do we bring people together to address some of these challenges in sharing best practice, maybe, or creating some industry programs to see how the awareness come about, so that one party can learn from other, right? We also went about saying that who are the industry leaders, and we talk about edge, and that's one side is pandemic. We spoke enough about pandemic, right? And second is to how do you survive in business and increase your margins or your product offering. So most of the companies are moving towards from a normal manufacturing to a service-based model. Not only I'm talking about the cloud or maybe the SaaS kind of companies, but actually the core companies who are doing their products. For example, for bank, if you're in the financial industry, you will like to move into fintech solutions. If you're in the manufacturing, you would like to see how do you co-partner with your innovators and your ecosystem, and see you start with the services along your ecosystem, right? For example, in energy industry, I'm seeing a lot where you go beyond normal manufacturing of EVs to a energy market, where you go for a green kind of exchange of energy to be a corporate citizen, to be carbon neutral, for example. So there are some good learnings on technology from maybe from automobile industry or medical, for manufacturing and high tech, right? Healthcare and even high tech, where it can leverage the technology and use them in a different use cases. That again, from GS1, RosettaNet Singapore, and Global CIO Forum, we're looking at opportunities where do we create outcomes programs where we can help one industry learn from the other industry and help them facilitate with some programs and outcomes, right? So this again a good research outcome, and how I'm seeing the trends in the region. Moving from the trends of investment, right? Where is the money being spent? If you see, it's kind of resonating exactly in which how the companies want to start after the reset or a restart, I would say, right? A huge emphasis on cybersecurity. If you hear the news yesterday, Biden wants to head the in US want to head the security forum, which is unusual of a US president trying to head a security forum, right? So that shows that how important cybersecurity has become. People are investing on cloud and cloud computing per se, because they're not sure about the demand situation, like we spoke in the earlier findings of the research, where you can ramp up and ramp down, and cloud gives a very good level play for these kind of models. AI and machine learning is playing a major part, even including data science, which is the next item, where you want to model different scenarios for you to react, because you just can't invest and say, oh, okay, I started off on this some impact on one of the countries where the supply chain is disrupted, right? I mean, that's happening more and more this year. So people want to model and see how my investments is going to look like with the erratic recovery across globally, right? It could be a container situation, it could be a shipping situation, it could be a logistics situation. So they want to see the model before they invest. So that's why I think these two investments are coming about: the big data, and then the data services. Data science is coming about. Blockchain is playing a major part in services, especially services part. When I mentioned about the financial services, the distributed ledger, when you go for green financing or supply chain financing. So people want to make sure the data is secured, encrypted. At the same time, you are able to govern it. And that's where the governments are coming into play. The IMD's trade trust program, where you have a common standards, where you can have a registry to to check if your document is authentic before you start paying to the parties, right? Things can move fast, but someone from a government need to help you to facilitate that cross-border standards are working. That again, we are working together with CIO Forum and RosettaNet Singapore to drive certain programs here. RPA, productivity increase, repetitive program. We don't need people, so many people, but they can do something else value added. It's playing a huge role there. And B2B and moving to a edge to from a B2B to B2B to C in service model. I see there's a lot of trends happening. You can see marketplaces, co-collaboration, and how different industry. It's not just the e-commerce side, but it's moving towards the energy sector and the solar industry itself. When you can have a climate change kind of marketplace, for example, standards for how United Nations is trying to drive the industry, right? So all that is happening as we speak. Then moving on to the talent side of things, we see a huge gap because the way the industry has changed and transformed, neither the industry was ready, nor the talent part was ready, nor the universities were ready. And there's a lot of gap in between supply and demand of talent. And we again are working closer with the industry to see how do we create programs right from influencing a curriculum, creating internship, maybe center of excellence kind of solutions where we can help steer that as a standard, and also at the same time build the talent from the ground up, so that in the future we will be able to narrow that gap. So that again, we're working very closely on that. And how to go about doing it. And we see more and more of agile being used, not only in the digital transformation, we're also seeing that in the back office functions, very interestingly, because the trend is we don't want to invest and wait for a long time, take it into smaller use cases, MVPs, and see the results as it goes. Not just on the front end side of things, but also in the back office. That's what the research outcome has stated here from a customer journeys perspective, and even in the operations in the back office. And what are the challenges which today the industry is facing? It's again, it comes back on why you need a consortium like us to solve the problems. You need to have government regulations. You need to have the telco providers be ready, like the 5G coming and kind of accelerating the whole of edge technologies, right? Do you have the system integrators in place? Because everything cannot be done by one organization. So you look at big organizations, even they're acquiring like in a SPAC model to a smaller startups or fintechs. That again, I think we are leveraging between RosettaNet Singapore and Global CIO Forum's network to see how do we do a mix and match of solutions where I think you can co-innovate, co-collaborate, and we can facilitate that, right? So some of these are the challenges, and how we are trying to see we can address those challenges is what we are working towards. And the beneficiaries are going to be everybody, individual leaders, industries, startups and ISVs, like I mentioned, for co-innovation, co-partnership, government agencies, and the education institutions. All put together are in our equation. We didn't miss anybody, and we look forward to work with each one of you in building that program and with your participation. And some of the government and the quasi-government organizations who have stepped forward to be a part of it, you have the logos there, and some programs are active, and we call for more international government and consortiums to join us to help drive this initiative. We cannot do it alone, right? And a good partnership with the Global CIO Forum and GS1, which is the US for us. I mentioned in some part of it, how to go about solving the problems. You may be multi-part. We need to have roundtables to gather the top ideas, top challenges, where we pick the top priorities by region, by country, by leaders, how to go about doing it. We've been doing that on top of the research to see where the traction is. That's happening in Pella as we speak. Some white paper is going to be soon released to say where we see things, how the outcomes are going to be, and where the opportunities out there for you to come and participate, accelerate the whole thing. Webinars like this, events and awareness for you to steer the interest and the motivation to join us, and also the talent gaps, like I mentioned. So all these are in paper, and I would strongly encourage the audience to join us or maybe be part of it in the volunteerism to make a difference. And I'm very excited to be part of this role, and we look forward for a lot of outcomes to be driven out of the research between RosettaNet Singapore and Global CIO. And that's the end of it. Thank you so much.